Hello, today we're going to be working with absolute values and equations and how to solve them. So today your learning target is you will be able to solve equations in one variable involving absolute value expressions. So to start off with, we have to talk about what is the absolute value of -6. This means what is the distance from 0? Distance from 0. Now remember, anytime you talk about distance, how far is something, that is always a positive number. So when you talk about the distance from here to your grandma's house, and if it's 12 miles or 17 miles, that's what it is. Now, when you're at your grandma's and you come home, just because you're coming backwards does not mean it is a negative value. It is still the same distance. So the absolute value of -6, how many paces or steps away from 0 is it? It is 6. So if you take the absolute value of a +6, that's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps away from 0. So whether you're talking about the absolute value of a -6 or the absolute value of a +6, the answer is 6. So now what happens when we put an x in there? It is asking you, what is the value of x? What number could we put in for x so that it is 7 units away? And anytime you have this, there's going to be 2 answers, 2 solutions. And the 2 solutions to this problem are 7 and -7. So x equals 7, and if you walked the other way in the number line, you can say x equals -7. Okay, so now in this one, if the absolute value of x is 4, what is the value of x? What number could you put in here for x to have it come out to be 4? Well, you can take the absolute value of 4, and that would give you a 4. Or you can take the absolute value of a -4, and that will give you 4. So the 2 solutions here are 4 and -4. So let's do this one here in red. Okay, what number can you put in here for x so that that answer is going to come out to 5? What number can you put in there? Can you put a 1? So that 1 plus 2 and the absolute value of that, does that give you 5? Nope. So what number could you put in there so that it would come out to be 5? And most of you can probably think ahead and you can know the answer is 3. But now remember, we just got done saying anytime you take the absolute value of something and we've got an x in here, there's going to be 2 solutions. So what's the other one? And some of you are going to guess a -3. Well, let's put a -3 in here. The absolute value of -3 plus 2. So what is -3 plus 2? That is a -1. And is the absolute value of -1 5? Nope. So what number is it that we could put in here for x? What plus 2 will give me 5? Well, to speed things up a little bit, how about we try a -7? What is -7 plus 2? Well, if you take -7 plus 2, don't we get a -5? And what is the absolute value of -5? 5. So we can put not only a 3 in there, but the other number is a -7. Now, this particular problem, we could kind of do that math in our head and figure this out. Okay, so what if we can't do that? Is there an algebraic way that we would be able to do this so that we could solve? And what it is, because you know there's 2 solutions, you are always going to have 2 problems. So if I give you 1 problem, it's really 2. If I give you 2 problems, it's really 4. You need to solve. There's always 2 cases. So the first case is exactly what you see without the absolute value. So we write x plus 2 equals 5. And we go ahead and solve this. Subtract 2, so x is 3. And that's the first answer that you guys got right off the bat over there. Okay, so we can also do, remember at the beginning we said there's 7 and -7, 4 and -4. Well, another solution would be for me to write, so the second case, because remember there's always 2. So the second case is going to say x plus 2 equals a -5. So now when we subtract 2, and this is where I'm going to really want you guys to use your calculators, so that x equals -7. And that is the second answer that we got over here. Okay, so we'll do a couple sample problems to make sure you guys are doing this right. Okay, and then the last thought-provoking question here is, can you take the absolute value of anything and get out a negative number? Is that possible? Whenever you're measuring distance, remember this stands the distance, and can you ever take the distance of something and get a negative number? And the answer is no. So the answer here is going to be no solutions. We cannot ever take the absolute value of something and get out a negative number. All right, I'm going to do quite a few sample problems today, and so we'll just get going on those right away here. All right, so example number 1, what number could you put in here for x to get out a 12? And remember, we are going to always have 2 cases or 2 solutions for all of these. 2. So we set up one is x equals 12, and the other is x equals a -12. So we're done. And sometimes you see people write it like this, plus and minus 12. Probably not so much in our online learning, but we will, if we were in person, you would see that a lot. Okay, so here's the problem. Remember, there's 2 cases. So the first case, you're going to set up exactly what it says without the absolute values. And now we're going to solve this. So we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. And what is 24 minus 7 is going to give us 17. So one answer is 17. And then the second case that we are going to have here is going to be, so the second case, we're going to say x plus 7 equals, and see over here I put a positive 24, and then I'm going to put a negative 24. So now I'm going to subtract 7 and subtract 7. So negative 24 minus 7 is going to be a negative 31. Okay, so we're going to end up with 2 solutions here. All right, next sample problem here. All right, so always 2 cases. So the first case is going to be exactly like it is, x minus 8 equals 20. And then the second case is we're going to say x minus 8 equals negative 20. When you're doing your homework assignment, write this out. Show your work on a piece of paper so that you have it. So x is 28. And then the other one is when we add 8 and we add 8, we get x to be equal to negative 12. Always do your work on a sheet of paper so you have something and you write it down and you have it written. All right. Oh, we skipped a problem here. Oh, goodness. All right. So, absolute value equals a negative number. What's the answer going to be here? No solutions. We do not even solve it. No solutions. We're done. You cannot take the absolute value of anything and get a negative number. All right, there it is. There's the problem I was looking for. They're just out of order here. Okay, so we have it equal to a positive 9. So I know I'm going to have 2 cases. So the first one is exactly what you see, but just do not write the absolute value sign. And then the second case that you're going to write is the same thing, 2x minus 1, but instead of it equaling a positive 9, now we're going to write a negative 9. And now you solve it just like you've been solving everything for weeks here in math. So we're going to add 1. So we have 2x equals 10. And then we're going to divide by 2. So x is 5. So one answer is 5. Now let's go over here, add 1, add 1. So 2x equals negative 8. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So x is negative 4. Okay, and if you want to, you can always go back in and plug it back in. If you plug in a negative 4 here, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 minus 1 is a negative 9. And what's the absolute value of negative 9? A positive 9. So that's how we know that that one works. All right, so here we go. It equals a positive 36. So we set up our two cases, x plus 4 equals 36. And a second case, because we always have two solutions. So 1 equals 36 and 1 equals a negative 36. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So x equals 32. I'm going to subtract 4, subtract 4. So x is 40. Okay, so the two answers we can put in there are 32 and, oh, I almost made a mistake here. Negative 36 and a negative 4 is a negative 40. I almost forgot that negative sign. All right, absolute value of x is 15, two cases. X equals 15 and x equals negative 15. There's nothing to solve, so we're done. X equals 15, x equals a negative 15. All right, what is the absolute value of 7? 7. What is the absolute value of a negative 8? 8. So it's always going to give you that positive value. All right, that's it for today. The big thing that you need to remember is set up two problems. For every single one, set up two problems. If you set up two problems, you're going to be able to get your answers correct. So please remember to set up two problems where it equals the plus and the minus of that. And remember, the absolute value of a positive number is still a positive number. Good luck.